three-part series focusing on the dignity of life and the Black community. I'm Tina Teifer, Director of Multicultural Outreach for Right to Life of Michigan. Tonight, we'll talk about the social impact of abortion on African American communities. Of course, abortion has powerful and far-reaching social impact on all communities, but because of the huge number of abortions performed on Black women, this impact is even more pronounced in the Black community. Abortion causes physical, emotional, cultural, economic, relational, moral, and psychological harm. There is so much to talk about, and we hope that as we scratch the surface tonight, our conversation will serve as food for thought and lead to other conversations, great hope, and love in action. Joining me tonight are Missy Parker Miller and Toni McFadden. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Hi.
Missy, we'll start with you. I'm going to introduce you. Missy Parker Miller is a social worker with Bethany Christian Services, the largest private adoption agency in the country. She's a proud graduate of Spring Arbor University and the Detroit Bible Institute. Missy is a Christian who loves the Lord. She's married to her wonderful husband, Curtis, and is the mother of 7 children, 3 birthed, 3 adopted, and 1 stepson. Missy is grandma to 8 beautiful grandchildren. It's no surprise that she was chosen as Right to Life Lifespan's Mother of the Year in 2006. Thank you, Missy, for being with us.
Thank you. It's a joy to be here. Thanks, Tina.
Toni McFadden is an international pro-life speaker and the founder of the program Relationships Matter, which calls out the degradation of sex and relationships in our culture by empowering the youth to value sex inside of marriage. Toni has just taken on a new position with Students for Life of America as their Minority Outreach and Healthy Relationships Director. She holds a bachelor's degree from West Chester University and her master's degree in biblical counseling from Summit University. Toni has been married to her wonderful husband, Chris McFadden, for 11 years, and they have 4 beautiful children. Her goal is to help equip and educate the youth to walk out healthy relationships that honor God, expose the lies of abortion, and help post-abortive women and men heal. Thank you, Toni, for talking with us.
Thank you.
Toni, you speak about the value and dynamics of relationships, and you believe that relationships matter. We know that healthy families are the basis for strong societies. Can you tell us a little about how abortion hurts relationships and marriages? Isn't abortion really an attack on families?
Yeah, there's a lot of different issues that are attacking the family, and abortion is obviously one of them, but sex outside of marriage, the way our society has degraded sex and confusing our kids into believing that it's no big deal. And when I go and I speak to kids as young as middle school all the way up to high school, even if they've never seen a good marriage in their lives, they want a good marriage. And what I'm trying to tell them is the decisions they're making now is going to affect the kind of person they're going to be when they're standing at that altar. You know, we're all married. We didn't just put a ring on our finger and automatically become faithful, honest, and trustworthy. You have to have built those things into who you are, or you haven't. And so there's so many messages being pushed, and when a woman chooses to have an abortion, she's believing all these lies that the culture is also telling her too, that it's not really a human being, that it's not a baby. They want to use so many euphemisms in order to manipulate the girl, whether she's younger or older. They want this to seem like it's a natural thing. It is not natural to take the life of your own child. That should not be normal. And we've been trying to normalize that ever since 1973, even before Roe versus Wade. So it is a destroying of the family because it takes the responsibility away from a man that he can do whatever he wants and then leave. And real men protect. They don't just do whatever they want and leave the woman to make this decision on her own. And so abortion is one of the key things, but obviously there's a lot of key factors that is destroying the family.
Yes, you're right. Thank you. There are, when a woman does choose to have an abortion, there are countless negative physical and emotional effects on that woman. And we know that many times those ripple out to the father of the lost baby, the extended family. Missy, can you talk a little about what often happens to a woman after an abortion and how that abortion also affects her family?
Okay. For most women facing an unplanned pregnancy, the decision of whether or not to have an abortion can be emotionally overwhelming. Most women today don't believe the lie that it's just a piece of tissue that they're removing from your body. Now with ultrasound and everything, most women today realize this is actually the ending of a life. They're taking the life of their own child. And this can have profound long-term negative emotional and physical consequences that many women are never educated on these things before they go into the abortion clinic. So I just want to briefly talk about one of the most common physical consequences, which is cervical incompetency. When a young woman goes in to have an abortion, they have to unnaturally open your cervix. When a woman is having a natural birth and she's going through natural labor, your cervix opens up a little bit at a time until it gets to 10 centimeters, when then the baby can be born. But when you're having an abortion, your body is not prepared at all for the birth of that baby. And so they have to unnaturally open your cervix. And in doing that, they can damage your cervix to some extent. And so in subsequent pregnancies, when women get pregnant, and this is a pregnancy that they do want to keep, they find that by the time they get to the 4th or 5th month, that their cervix opens up and they end up miscarrying the baby. When the baby gets a little bit of weight, for the 4th month or 5th month of pregnancy, the cervix can't hold. And so they miscarry. And I know women who have had miscarriage after miscarriage after miscarriage as a result of their cervixes having been damaged from a previous abortion. And so that's one of the most common physical consequences. But beyond that, there are so many emotional consequences that women suffer that they're never told about ahead of time. And one of these is, I'm going to talk a little bit about, is called post-abortion syndrome. Thousands of women around the world who've had abortions are suffering in silence from post-abortion syndrome. And so, and what we kind of said earlier was abortion is not just the woman's decision and it only affects the woman. It affects her family, her friends, those who care about her, because of the emotional roller coaster she's going to be on after the abortion. For most women, it's a very traumatic and very emotional, draining situation having an abortion. So post-abortion syndrome is a form of post-traumatic stress disorder. And most of us know that this was a disorder that was diagnosed from Vietnam veterans when they came back home from fighting the war in Vietnam. They experienced such horror and traumatic experiences over in Vietnam. When they came home, they were not able to re-engage normally in society, because they would have nightmares about the things that they saw and participated in Vietnam that were absolutely horrific. They would have flashbacks. So you could just be in the middle of doing whatever and something would trigger them and they would end up having a flashback. And that it would just be so overwhelming to them. Many of these men have not been able to function normally in society, and they had to begin working with them to help them to heal from this post-traumatic stress disorder. And so post-abortion syndrome is a form of post-traumatic stress disorder. And just like we said with Vietnam vets, they might have flashbacks or nightmares and things like that. Those are some of the things that women who've had abortions will also have. And this post-abortion syndrome comes about because just the very process of making an abortion decision is very difficult, and it's very trying for the woman. But then going through the actual procedure itself is very horrible. And then the women living with the grief and pain and regret is very, very traumatic. And what we have to understand is that with any trauma, women will try to forget the ordeal. They'll try to deny, or they want to ignore or repress the pain and self-guilt that they feel. And I just want to share, there's an alarming amount of evidence showing that abortion is responsible for a broad array of deep psychological and emotional disturbances. And I'm just going to give a couple of statistics here, okay? 90% of post-abortive women suffer damage to their self-esteem. 50% of post-abortive women begin or increase alcohol and drug abuse. 60% report suicidal ideation. 28% actually attempt suicide because of the self-blame and guilt that they feel after an abortion. It can lead them to actually try to commit suicide. 20% of post-abortive women go into full-blown post-traumatic stress disorder, where, like I said, they're having the nightmares and flashbacks. So if they hear a baby cry, that can trigger them to where they're having flashbacks of the procedure and things like that. Or women will have nightmares of the baby that maybe they would have had. And this is haunting them throughout their everyday life. And the last statistic I want to share is that 52% of post-abortive women have felt pressured by others to have the abortion. So many women go into having an abortion really not 100% committed to it, but they feel pressured, they feel coerced by society, by family, maybe by the father of the baby, what have you. They feel pressured, and so they go into this, but in their heart of hearts, they really don't have peace about the decision that they're making. So the problem with this is that women who do not connect the emotional difficulties they suffer with the trauma of abortion, because they're not connecting the dots. They're having all of these feelings of blame and self-doubt and guilt, but they're not connecting it to the abortion. So they repress their feelings, which result in psychological and behavioral difficulties that show up in other areas. So it's like a woman may go into an eating disorder or alcoholism, self-destructive behaviors, or having anxiety and panic disorders, but they're not relating any of these things to the previous abortion that they had. And unfortunately, many women after an abortion feel they have no place to turn. She had this awful traumatic experience, but she doesn't feel comfortable really talking to anybody about how she's really feeling, because it was her choice to do this. And so she feels like if I talk to somebody, they're just going to say, well, you made the decision to do that, so suck it up, you know? But so many women are suffering in silence instead of getting help and being able to work through their pain, their regret, their grief. And the other thing I want to share is that for some women, having another child leads to self-loathing, and sometimes it leads to rejection of that baby because she feels that she's not worthy of loving or nurturing another child because she ended the life of her previous child. And so to end, I just want to share this. 84% of women state that they would have continued their pregnancy if there had been better circumstances they were in, or if they had had more support. So Black community, I just really want to encourage us to, if you know of a young woman who's in a unplanned pregnancy, a crisis pregnancy, embrace her, love on her, let her know you will be there to support her decision to give life to her baby. Because most of us, we're not hearing that. People are very easy and quick to tell you, well, just go get an abortion. It's legal, just go do that. get rid of it. But they're not thinking about the long-term impact and the consequences emotionally and mentally and everything on that young woman. But if we would do life affirming support for women and let them know we will be there for you if you choose to give life to your baby. And I also just want to share that there are a number of programs out there to help post-abortive women who are suffering with post-abortion syndrome. There is help available to you. So you can call a crisis pregnancy center. There are organizations on the internet, Heartbeat International, Silent No More. There's a lot of information out there to help you to be able to heal from the emotional consequences that you're going through now. Women who have been where you are will be more than willing to walk alongside you and help you to heal. You no longer have to suffer in silence. So I pray that you really will seek help, seek out some of these programs or women who can really be a help and a support to you, that you can move your life forward without having to just deal with all of this emotional hurt and pain. And it's a wound that needs to heal. So I really encourage women to seek out help for post-abortion syndrome.
I want to add that at our website, rtl.org, we have resources that include post-abortive healing. So you can go there and find that under pregnancy resources.
Mhm.
So Missy just listed a lot of horrible effects on a woman and her health. It's a fact that there are disparities when it comes to the health and health care of the Black population. Health disparities take on many forms, including higher rates of chronic disease and premature death. The high rate of abortion adds to the disparity. Having an abortion increases a woman's breast cancer risk by 40%. Tony, do you think, is there a societal misconception that pregnancy causes health problems? And could Black women be choosing abortion rather than subjecting themselves to a racist healthcare system?
I mean, well, we've had a target on our backs since the beginning. Planned Parenthood is a racist organization from the beginning. They've wanted to wipe us out, and they've done so well with their marketing to deceive women into thinking this is our only option. And Black women, I would say, no, having an abortion is not your only option. And as Missy said, there are organizations out there willing to help you and walk alongside of you. And I wish I would have known, because I am one of those people who had an abortion when I was a senior in high school, did not understand fetal development. And you think when I walked into an abortion exactly where I was in my pregnancy? No, they deliberately have an agenda because they want to wipe us out. I specifically read a tweet from Planned Parenthood that said, if you're a Black woman in America, it's statistically safer for you to have an abortion than to carry a pregnancy to term or give birth. Hashtag scary stats. Now, there's a little bit of truth in there, a little tiny bit. And this is the CDC. We are Black women, I think 3 to 4 times more likely to have a maternal death. But it's just better healthcare for us to end the life of our child. So no, I think that they're using that as an agenda. When we live in the richest nation, they could give us better healthcare and listen to Black women when they're saying they're having issues. And also, as a Black community, we do need to educate ourselves on this, because like I said, when I was an 18-year-old, I didn't understand any of this stuff. I didn't have the resources that there are now. And now I know a whole list of things where I can go to. There's almost no excuse. Like, you can watch live action, you can write Students for Life in America. There are so many videos that and everything that can educate a woman. But I also think a lot of Black women are going through this because they're told it's normal, and they're being told that the men aren't there to protect them in this. And so I think there's a lot of issues that need to be addressed in that process. But I don't think the solution is, you need to have an abortion. I don't.
We were talking about healing, and you mentioned that you had an abortion. Have you gone through that journey? Can you just tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. Thank God. Only by the grace of God am I on the side of healing. And if it wasn't for my relationship with God, I don't think I would be exactly where Missy was talking about. I tried to stuff it down for years. I didn't understand how my behaviors were affected because of my abortion. I was given the RU486 pill, which is it's the popular abortion pill that they're trying to send through the mail to young girls right now through telehealth. It wasn't even officially legal from the FDA yet. This was in 1999, and it wasn't approved until 2000. I was told to take these pills. The first set of pills I took blocked the hormone progesterone so that my baby would die in the womb from starvation. And 24 to 48 hours later, I was to take the second set of pills. And if you've ever seen the movie Unplanned, that's exactly what I went through. The doctor said, oh, you'll have a little bit of cramping, kind of more heavier than a period. But you know what? My pills actually did not work until 2 months later when I started hemorrhaging in school. And probably could have died, but I was too scared to tell my parents because no adult knew this was going on with me. And I just remember laying in fetal position in my bed, praying all of this was going to be over soon, because I literally was in the bathroom for hours, basically waiting to flush my dead baby down the toilet. That's traumatizing. This is not a normal thing to go through. And as an 18-year-old who's not fully mentally, mature, had a hard time getting over that. And it wasn't until years later when my life began to change while I was in college and I became a Christian, and God really showed me who he created me to be. But even after 2.5 years of being a Christian, I still didn't tell anyone because I thought that was the one thing Christians weren't going to forgive me for. And so this is a call out to the churches to really speak on this, because 4 out of 10 women sitting in the pews have gone through an abortion, and they're sitting in silence and suffering because no one's really talking about it. And it took a while, but the Lord is not comfortable with keeping us where we're at. And so if you're listening to this and you've had an abortion, and the Lord's not looking at you and saying, you shouldn't, He wants you to be healed. And that's what he began to do in my life. And I had to sit in the pain. And I think that's the most difficult thing, because it's natural as human beings to run away from pain. But I was willing to sit in the pain. I went through a Bible study called Forgiven and Set Free by Linda Cochran. I went through that. I had a memorial service for my child, and the Lord showed me through a dream that my baby was a boy. And that it was just those little healing moments throughout. I still go through healing moments. Like, I don't think it ever fully ends, but I think the most beautiful healing moment was when the guy that I had the abortion with 10 years later came back to apologize to me. And it was the first time it showed me that abortion doesn't just affect women, that it does affect men. And it was easier for him to walk away from the relationship than have to acknowledge every time he looked at me that we ended the life of our child. But lo and behold, we are now married. And we've been married, as you mentioned, for 11 years. And we have 4 beautiful children, one, obviously 5, one in heaven who we know we will see. But that's the redemption of our God and what he does when we give him our pain. And he's the only one that could take something as horrible as abortion and make something beautiful out of it. So yes, I am now a living proof of what healing looks like when you give your pain over.
Amen. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we're going to talk a little bit about how abortion affects society in the political realm.
Mhm.
Abortion has an impact in the political realm. It reduces the political strength of the Black community and the power of the Black vote. More than 20 million Black babies have been aborted since the 1973 Roe versus Wade Supreme Court decision legalizing abortion in our country. Imagine the voting power of the Black community if those people were alive today. If abortion wasn't such a common choice for the Black mother, we might have more Black senators and representatives in government. Missy, wouldn't Black people and all people benefit if African Americans had more of a presence in our government?
Well, that's for sure, Tina. We would have much more of a presence and voice in our country if we as a country, as a people, had not murdered over 20 million of our Black babies due to abortion. Because not only would we have more Black politicians, but we would have more Black lawyers, Black doctors, Black educators, Black engineers, Black police officers, and so on, you know, individuals who would be able to help, you know, there will be more of us to help influence policy and laws and things that are being made, because we would have those numbers. 20 million of us are not here today because of abortion. And I just want to say, you know, Blacks, for decades, we were the #1 minority in this country. And as the #1 minority, there are certain perks and things you get from the government as a result of that, you know. But now, due to abortion and us having wiped out 20 million of our people, Hispanics are now the #1 minority because they're not aborting their babies at the same rate that we are. Black women abort their babies 2 to 1 to white women. That means twice as much we are aborting our children. And with the Black Lives Matters movement, I really hope that we will embrace the idea that if we really believe that all Black lives matter, then that should also include the Black lives in the womb. You know, the #1 killer of Blacks in our country is not heart disease, it's not cancer, you know, it's not gun violence and Black on Black crime and all that. That's not the #1 killer of Blacks in our country. The #1 killer of Black Americans in this country is abortion. And so we need to acknowledge and step up and recognize the fact that we are systematically exterminating our race through abortion. Okay, we're committing genocide on our own race. How crazy is that? You know, in some states, more Black babies are aborted than are being born alive. And our race cannot continue if we continue to do that. As I said, we're actually wiping ourselves out. We are losing more babies through abortion than are being born alive. And we really need to think about that. So as a race of people, if we care about our futures, we need to stop killing our babies in the womb and really embrace that concept that all lives matter. All Black lives matter, and that includes Black lives in the womb. And if we think about where we could be as a country if we had not killed those 20 million babies since 1973, like you said, Tina, the political voice that we could have had, the changes, like I said, that could have been even in terms of laws that were passed, because of we have 20 million more Black people to vote and to help influence policy. We get with our representatives and everything. We could have made such a difference in maybe the way things are going now, but due to abortion and us ending the lives of so many of our people, we're in the situation that we're in now. But it's not too late, because some of us are still here. And if we can begin to encourage one another to affirm life, you know, and that's in every arena. The gun on gun violence is crazy in the Black community and that kind of thing. So in many areas, we need to affirm life and how precious all life is. And with Black Lives Matters, all lives Even Black lives in the womb
Mhm.
really matter.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that I'm part of a group. There's 5 women. We're called Pro Exit, and 5 strong Black women who are exiting the curse of abortion. And our goal is to educate Black women to leave the curse and restore future generations. Because right now we're at about 13 to 12%. If we drop below 10%, it's going to be really hard to reverse that. And we don't want our race to be wiped out. And so this is a time, I really believe there's an Esther mantle upon the Black community, that we need our voices to speak out and not believe the lie that abortion is our only option.
Mhm.
That's true. And that leads us right into talking about the economic situation and how that's affected by abortion. Although a person's value is priceless and cannot be put into dollars and cents, abortion affects the wealth of a people, their community, and society. Birth control and family planning are sometimes seen as a key to upward mobility. Tony, you told us about strong families and how they have more success and fulfillment in life. How does that family contribute to economic prosperity for the Black community?
Well, I think what we're missing right now is young people need to see their fathers get up every morning, go to work, even when they don't feel like going to work, and providing for their family. Like, there's an order in things for a reason, but because there are a lot of families, especially in the Black community, where the father has been taken out of the home, they're not seeing that. And now the woman is called to do both, or the government is trying to step in and be the father so that she doesn't need. No, we have to dismantle all of that. And I mean, but at the same time, there's this narrative that, I mean, statistically, there's over, I think, 100 million Black Americans that are making $100,000 or more. So there's certain things in the Black community where we're doing well, but for some reason the crime rate is really high. But in the 1940s and 1950s, when there was a lot of poverty, I mean, racial discrimination was legal, the crime rates were lower. Why? It just, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And, obviously I don't think of success by money. I think of success by a strong family unit that is providing for each other, loving each other, and it's the simple things of being around each other and growing together. And then those kids learning from their parents to do the exact same thing. That family is a beautiful thing. And I feel like that's being torn apart. And all of this goes back to value. We don't value the most vulnerable among us. How are we going to value those who are outside of the womb if we can't even value the ones who don't even have a voice and who are the weakest in society?
Missy, if a young woman is in school or has a good career going and she becomes pregnant, she may think that abortion is the only option for her to continue on her current path. If you could talk to the young woman in that situation, what would you say to her?
Okay. Well, young women finding themselves in an unplanned pregnancy, that can be very disconcerting emotionally and everything else, as you just don't know, what am I going to do? You're not sure what you should do. I will let her know, first of all, that there are wonderful life-affirming options for her. Like we said before, for many women, they felt if they had the support of family and friends, they would have continued the pregnancy and chose to parent their child. They wouldn't have had an abortion if they felt they had more support. And so that is something, again, I'm encouraging our community to do, to embrace the women and be supportive of a woman if she's in an unplanned pregnancy. But if for whatever reason the woman is in circumstances and she doesn't have the support and she just feels like, I cannot parent this child, the other wonderful option that she has is adoption. She does not have to end the life of her child, but she can make an adoption plan for her child, that's a life affirming decision. And there are many, many adoption agencies now who do what's known as open adoption. I want to share that very quickly because a lot of people, when they think of placing my baby up for adoption, they think of the way it was back in the day, where you drop a baby off and you never know what's happened to them. Like, how are they doing? Is my baby being loved? Is my baby being taken care of? So the mother, again, is just, she's left in the dark and she's just weeping every night, wondering what's happening with my baby. But now with open adoption, the birth mom chooses the family that she wants to adopt her baby, and they develop a relationship. They walk through the pregnancy together. When she goes in to deliver, that family is with her as she delivers the baby. The baby goes home with this family. But the good thing is that the birth mom can keep in touch with the family and with her child over the years. She doesn't have to end her relationship with her baby once she gives birth. She can continue that relationship. And so the birth mom and the adoptive family, they set up the boundaries, you know, how they want this to work. And the most common one is just where the adoptive family will send pictures to the mom of the baby, of the child as the child grows. Mom can come to the birthday party once a year. The beauty of this is that birth mom is able to see how her child is doing, to see that her child is loved, is being nurtured, is being well taken care of. So birth mom can have some peace in her soul that she made a good decision. She gave her baby life and she blessed another family that probably could not have children. She blessed them with a baby. And then for that child, that adopted child, that child has so much more peace because they have a relationship with their birth parent. They now know who they look like. They know why my mom was not able to parent me. Because so many adoptive children, they just cry over the fact, why did my mama not want me? Why didn't she love me? But in an open adoption situation, the child knows the mom. They may not still really understand why mom wasn't able to parent, but they appreciate the fact that mom loved me enough to give me life and to make an adoption plan for me where I'm with a family that loves me, is taking care of me, and I have a wonderful future ahead of me because of the life decision my mom made. So I just really want to encourage young women out there that adoption is a wonderful, wonderful option. You do not have to end the life of your child. And also, even if you make the adoption plan, you can keep in touch with your child over the years to know how your child is doing. So please keep that in mind. And I am a employee at Bethany Christian Services. And as Tina said, we're the largest adoption agency in the country. So if you're thinking that you might want to check into making an adoption plan, or you're not sure what you want to do in regards to your pregnancy, please call our office. I'm going to give the number if that's okay.
Yes.
It's 248-414-4080. I'll say that again. The number is 248-414-4080, and ask to speak with one of our pregnancy counselors, because they will meet with you. They will walk with you through whatever your thought processes are. And then if you do feel that maybe an adoption would be a good plan for you, then they'll have you meet up with one of our domestic infant adoption specialists, and they will walk with you through the entire rest of your pregnancy and assist you in any way they can. So once again, you don't have to be alone. There's a lot of support out there for you, and just reach out and make the life decision for your child.
Thank you, Missy. So we are pro-life people, and I'm sure that you get the same thing that I sometimes do. Pro-life people get accused that we only are pro-birth. We only care that that baby is given life, and after that, we don't care anymore. And Missy, as an adoptive parent and a foster parent, you are like the shining example of a pro-life woman. But not everyone can adopt and foster like that. Tony, how do you think pro-life people can make clear that we love and care about all people
Yeah.
Are we really obligated to every one of the unborn babies we advocate for?
It's interesting. I get this a lot on my social media platforms, just saying, well, you have to care about this, 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 and this. And just because I'm focused on a certain area doesn't mean I'm disregarding all the other areas, because other organizations don't get regarded that way. Like, we're not mad at, you know, Cancer Foundation for not curing every other disease. Like, that's their specialty, you know. But I found that the pro-life movement, they all have different aspects that I'm going to, like, I may not have this resource, but I know somebody else that does. And to say that I only care about this child being born is just an excuse, I think, for them to say you should have an abortion because they don't want to deal with all the other stuff. If you really cared about that, then why aren't you trying to provide for all these other areas? And so I've seen the pro-life movement being the ones, as an example of Missy, adopting. And I have a friend who does surprise baby showers for those who keep their babies, and have rooms set up in their houses of baby stuff just in case they come when they're praying outside of an abortion clinic. A girl's like, because I don't have this and this and this, they have that there. So it's just, again, I just think that's an excuse, and there's something deeper that they're trying to like get away with. And that is like the thing that they push on. But I'm like, hey, I'm proud to be a pro-birther. I don't take offense to that at all, because I know that what I'm doing is protecting life, and also protecting this woman in the long run too.
Yes, very good answer. Thank you. And I'll bring up again rtl.org, where we have those connections, we have those resources to help, you know, during the pregnancy and after. As a matter of fact, we have a website called Help in the D. And on that website, you can find help for everything. If you need housing, if you need dental or health care, or just anything beyond just diapers and counseling, then you'll find it all there at rtl.org. So abortion hurts society morally. It normalizes the killing of humans for convenience. The moral consequences of something as grave as this are far-reaching and permeate into nearly every aspect of life and society. How can we help the next generation of young people to see their own value, to know their worth, and to stand up for their brothers and sisters in the womb? I'm going to have you both answer that.
Okay, I'll go first because I know this is Tony's area. So, first of all, like as we've been stating all throughout this broadcast, that all lives matter, including Black lives in the womb. And just to say, life is not random. You know, we're not just here by happenstance. A lot of people are believing Big Bang, that somehow all life was created with this Big Bang. Well, most people know that's not true, okay? That life, there's too many complexities in life for it just to have happened. And so to know that there is a God, a creator, who purposefully created all life and created us with a purpose, with a plan. I have to go to the scripture because, hey, it's the word of God, and it makes it very clear that I was created in the image and likeness of God. Psalm 139:14 says, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. How awesome is that, you know? And as I said, I'm made in the image and likeness of God. I can think, I can pray, I can just is so many. I have a mind, a will, and emotion. I have a soul and a spirit and a body. You know, it's just we are made in just a wonderful way. And Jeremiah 1:5 tells us that before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. And that lets us know that God created us again with a purpose. He knew us before we were even formed in the womb. And I'm sure many of you know life begins at conception. When that sperm fertilizes that egg, Everything is there for that baby to be the human being that the Lord ordained it to be. All that baby needs is a little time and the nourishment from the mom, but you don't have to add anything else to it. So life begins at conception. And before I was formed in the womb, God knew me and had a plan for me. And I'm going to end with Jeremiah 29:11, which says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future." Our God loves us, and he planned and ordained for each of us to be here for a purpose. And I just want to say, God is the giver of life. So only God should be the one to take it away, not any of us. And abortion, the murder of your own preborn baby, should never, ever, ever be an option for a woman. It should never be an option. And so my encouragement to you tonight is that you will choose life. And in choosing life, there will be, as we shared tonight, so a lot of support, a lot of help for you as you go through that journey. But give your baby life.
Mm-hmm. Amen. I don't know if there's much I could add. That was perfect. Because that's exactly where I'm coming from. Because the reason I named my program Relationships Matter was through reading through Genesis. And then even though Adam had this perfect relationship with God, it's the first time he says something's not good in his creation is when Adam's alone and he sends Eve. And so it just shows you relationships are the most important thing. And the Trinity is an example of this perfection of this relationship they have. And so for us, I think as a society, because of sin and because of us having thinking we know what's best, that's deteriorating relationships. And they're not held up to the value that they're called to be. And so I think as of right now, we need to speak out even more on truth and not let fear paralyze us, because we have so many different messages being thrown at us, but to stand firm in who God created us to be. And through the book of Ephesians, one of my favorites that really drills in who we are in Christ. And it's in those moments that people are starving for that right now. They want to understand why they were created, because nothing in this world is going to satisfy that. And so it's all the suffering going around, the reason that we can still stand in hope is because of him, and because we know our future, and we know right here is in home. But as Missy said, we should not be in charge in who has life and who shouldn't have life, and valuing someone based on where they reside, whether inside of the womb or outside of the womb. And so I think that we need to really speak boldly about this and not be afraid to speak on life. I think we do live kind of in a culture of death right now, and we need voices that are speaking life to rise up and be firm in that. And I think that we're going to see a shift change in that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, ladies. Thank you for being those voices. Hopefully people will share this live stream, and many, many more people will hear the message that you just shared.
Amen. All right.
It was
Thank
nice
you
to
for
talk.
the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next week, next week on the 25th, we're going to talk about racism and abortion. The title is The Difference Between Spit and Rain, and you'll have to tune in to find out why we called it that. 7 o'clock.
All right.
Thanks,
Yeah. Nice meeting you, Missy.
Nice meeting you too. God bless.
You too. Bye.
Bye, Tina.
Bye, Missy.